the same thing they tell you about confidence in the other parts of your life. You're always going to face challenges, but you always have to get back up. I saw a great podcast, or it was actually, I think, a YouTube video. It's a New York Times bestselling author, and he talked about the difference between successful and unsuccessful people. And the difference basically is that unsuccessful people stop at some point, and successful people always keep going. Wow. And when he said that, he said, if you don't have a skill, or you don't have a talent, or you don't have a resource, a lot of people, that's it. But the successful people, they push through, they find the talent, they create the skill, or they obtain the resource. And I think the same thing applies here, where we're trying to give people that resource. A lot of people don't have these resources. When I started in my business, which was in the mid 90s, from, call it 1997 to 2007 or 2006, they called it a lost decade. There were so many bad things that occurred in that decade that even if you followed the steps we lay out in the book, and you were disciplined, and you saved every month, and you were investing and dollar cost averaging and doing all of those things, you were sticking with your investment plan, and it was a good quality plan. Over that 10-year period, you didn't get very far. And I'd have a lot of people who were, at that time, my age, in their mid to late 30s, early 40s, saying, why am I doing this? I'm doing all the right things, but I'm not getting anywhere.
But then if they get not confident and pull out, that's when they miss it, right?
That's right. And that's why, we talk a lot in the book, Kary, about the idea that you shouldn't do this alone. Another part of not having confidence is being by yourself, and not having sounding boards and partners and, mentors and people that you can run things by, and people who can help talk you through those difficult periods. And that's why, it's really important that for people to succeed on their financial journey, and for them to develop that financial confidence, they need partners. They need a good financial advisor. They need to be on the same page as their spouse. So you need a team around you to help you. And I think that level of collaboration also helps bring confidence. I also think that getting through challenges also helps create confidence. My clients who went through that 10-year lost period, in the late 90s, early 2000s, because they made it through that and have had amazing success since, just getting through that challenging period gives you confidence, and knowing that it can get bad, but that it's going to be okay because you've seen it, right? So experience gives you that level of confidence as well.
I agree. My wife's a counselor, and, in the counseling field, they call it exposure therapy, where the one thing you're scared of, you start exposing yourself to it in small, controllable amounts, and you build that tolerance where you become unstoppable. You bring up a good analogy, though. I've never shared this story, but I remember being in Cleveland. My dad and I had just bought tickets to the national championship for wrestling, and we were going to leave a round early. So, you get like tickets for like 6 rounds or something. So we had a round left, and we go out on the street, and I'm like, hey, Dad, I bet you I can sell these, and we'll just go home early, because he wanted to go home early. So anyway, a guy comes up and he's like, I'll offer you 50. And I'm like, and I'm like, no, that's too low, because it was really just too low. And I started to walk away, and the guy's like, okay, I'll give you 100 for both. All right, whatever, however the math worked, or something like that. And I'm like, sounds good. And so I sold it. And then my dad's like, wow, man, I would have just taken that 50 for both, instead of 100 for both. And it got me thinking, like, nothing against my dad, but he had to really go through a lot of battles with money, And so when you just nailed it, your story got me thinking, but like, when you have the confidence to be able to walk from bad deals too, or bad, I'm sure, like, I don't know what you'd call it, but like financial plans, that's a big thing. Who was it that said, I'll never forget the amount of money I made on the deals I didn't do? Mm-hmm. Like the confidence to say, no, I'm not going to lower my standards just to get this little bit of money. Have you seen that happen too?
Absolutely. There's always going to be times where you pass up a good deal, but I'm always fine passing up a good deal as long as I don't take advantage of a bad one.
That's good.
And I think that's important for people. That's why, like we talk about in the book, it's really important that you focus on quality when you are thinking through how you're going to set up your personal financial habits. Everything you want to do should be surrounded by quality, whether you're hiring a quality advisor, whether you're taking on quality content to help educate yourself.